Now, the price and the title are not all. We also, of course, need an input for the description. So I'll copy the title input here and move that after the price input. And on there, I'll say description as a label text. And the text input action here should still be next, because I still want to go to a different input thereafter. But now the special thing about the description input here will be that it actually should be suited for longer inputs, because the description of a product potentially is longer. For that, I'll add a max lines argument here and set this to 3 to determine how long this may be, how many lines should be rendered on the screen, so to say. The user can always enter more by scrolling in the text field, but that determines how big the text field container is in the end. I will also set a special keyboard type with text input type, as we did it for the price, and here to multiline, which gives us a keyboard that is particularly suited for multiline text input. And with that, actually, I do remove the next text input action, because multiline will automatically give us an enter symbol in the bottom right corner of the soft keyboard so that we can enter a new line there. Hence, we also don't need on field submitted there, because the user will have to move to the next input on his own, because we can't tell when he's done, because we'll have a enter symbol to simply add a new line. But let's simply see that. So if I save this, we go back, you see this is now bigger than the other inputs because we set max lines to 3. And now if I tap in here, this is this new line button which I meant. You see the cursor here jumps into different lines if I press that. And that's why we can't go to a new text input or go to the next input, because we don't know when the user wants to add a new line or when the user wants to quit editing this. So we'll leave that to the user and always create a new line. And if the user wants to go to a different input, he simply has to tap it. So now with that, we have the description input here as well. But let's make sure we can go there from the price input by also assigning a focus node to it. So just as before, we can create another focus node. Now it's the description focus node, like this. And we now assign this here as a focus node to the description input. And on the price input, where we have that next button in the soft keyboard, we also use on field submitted, as we did it on the title input. But of course here we request focus for the description focus node. With that, if we save that and we're in the price, if I hit next, I go to description. Now, one other important note about focus nodes, by the way, you have to dispose them when your state gets cleared. So when this object gets removed, when you leave that screen. Because the focus nodes otherwise will stick around in memory and will lead to a memory leak. So when working with focus nodes, as we're doing it here, you should add a dispose method to your state object where you're using them. And then in there, call price focus node, dispose, and do the same for the description focus node to be sure that you clear up that memory, free up that memory which they occupy, and avoid memory leaks. That's an important side note here. If you're working with your own focus nodes, you need to dispose of them in the dispose method in your state. And with that, we added some core inputs here which allow us to enter a couple of important pieces of information about a product. One missing piece, if we have a look at the definition of a product, of course, is the image URL, because that is something we also need. ID can be automatically generated, favorite is set to false, but the image URL is something the user needs to enter. So let's make sure we have an input for that as well.